Shakilla.
My name is Ramandha Farrell Melangkai.
You can call me Dava.
You can call me Farrell.
In general, dumping is a situation of international price discrimination, where the price of a product when sold in the importing country is less than the price of that product in the market of the exporting country. Thus, in the simplest of cases, one identifies dumping simply by comparing prices into markets.
According to European Union, oil prices, crude palm oil, or you can call CPO, as the main raw material for biodiesel used by Indonesian biodiesel producers in the domestic market, are distorted due to differences in Indonesia's export tax system. So, EU charges dumping of biodiesel products in Indonesia, namely a situation where an item, in this case biodiesel, is sold in the market of EU at a lower than normal price. In order to protect domestic producers from dumping actions that have the potential to cause losses, the European Union applies trade barriers in the form of the imposition of anti-dumping agreement. In this case, we would like to use the liberalism perspective because of the settlement used by Indonesia and EU mediated by WTO for prioritizing diplomacy actions instead of heightening the tensions between both sides.
The World Trade Organization (WTO) is the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. At its heart are the WTO agreements, negotiated and signed by the bulk of the world trading nations and ratified in their parliaments. The purpose of the agreements of these WTO agreements is to assist producers of goods and services, exporters, and importers in carrying out their activities, namely international trade. In this case, WTO is the mediator between Indonesia and EU, so that the dispute can be settled and consulted first to find the best possible solutions.
WTO is the rule of law and the head of trade liberalization used dispute settlement body or called DSB. In this DSB, WTO classified the processes of dispute settlement. First, the consultation phase. Both sides use bilateral consultation to talk about the issues, but in this case, it didn't find any solution. So the WTO proceeds to the second phase, which is the panel. Panel also consists of third-party countries outside of the dispute to test Indonesia's claims against EU. The essence of Indonesia's omission is that EU didn't competent with WTO's terms and agreements and disobeyed terms from Anti-Dumping Agreements Acts. WTO began to investigate and put burden of proof to Indonesia from their arguments. Finally, the WTO agreed to 6 out of 11 Indonesia's arguments, making Indonesia won in this settlement. EU didn't appeal because they lost the dispute.
In conclusion, WTO as the judge and mediator of this settlement proved that their role as the rule of law and promoting trade liberalization has been worked successfully. Both Indonesia and EU agreed to the solutions and recommendations made by WTO, in ending the dispute peacefully and mutually beneficial. Both sides didn't protest or felt unfair that can lead to trade war like US and China did.